Good morning, everyone. I hope you have had a wonderful spring as it's coming in. The weather has been fairly nice. We got a little rain yesterday, and I am a little behind. There have been some things going on, so we are going to try and do a few to catch up. So I do apologize for that, and I apologize for the dogs. They're in a little play mode right now. So let's get started. And this one is Mary and Martha. So I have my Mary and Martha. We have our family sheet, coloring page, activity page, and the leaflet sheets. Now my leaflet sheets are going to be a little bit different than yours. I had to print mine off of the computer because I can't find where I put the extras. And as you get older, and your parents are probably laughing right now, but as you get older, you will understand that sometimes you lose things and you can't find them. And I have looked and I don't know where I set them. But I'm sure when I'm done this spring with Sunday school, I will find them. And which is fine. We'll use the extras another year. So here we go. We're going to talk about Mary and Martha, and I am going to start with a little bit of background. In this story, Jesus visits the home of two sisters, Mary and Martha. Now, if you remember the story of Lazarus, he is the person that Jesus raised from the dead. Now, these are his two sisters. Mary and Martha are his two sisters. As Jesus sits teaching the disciples, Mary joins them. Meanwhile, Martha is busy making sure the guests are comfortable. Hospitality was an important job that usually was held for women. So the men would learn and the women would make the food and check and see if everybody was comfortable. So when Mary sat at Jesus' feet, she took the role of a learner, which was a role exclusively held for men. Martha was upset that Mary wasn't helping her with the tasks associated with serving the guests. But it's likely she was also unhappy that Mary was breaking social norms by sitting with the men. So most of the time during that time, men were the learners, women took care of the house and the kids, and they made sure everybody was fed, and they didn't sit together. And I know that's kind of hard to understand, but many years ago, there were churches that men would sit on one side and women would sit on others. And it's kind of hard to believe that in this day and age. And it wasn't so many years ago that kind of took place. Sometimes it was in the 1950s, 1940s, 1960s when that started to change. But there were times when even my parents said that when they went to church right after they got married in 1960, that there were still people in that church that men sat on one side and women and kids sat on the other. So you can kind of put that in perspective a little bit. When Jesus affirmed Mary's choice, meaning when Jesus said that it was okay that Mary sat there, it was revolutionary. He broke the barriers previously maintained between men and women by inviting Mary and other women into a male space. Jesus doesn't want anyone prohibited from learning from him. So basically, Jesus wanted to teach everybody. He did not care if you were male or female. He didn't care what your normal status was, and he didn't care what you normally should have been doing. So this story invites us to examine the radical hospitality of Jesus. You know how it feels to not be included or to be left out. I'm sure every one of us has been left out from something. I know I have. And as you grow up, sometimes that will happen more often and sometimes it won't. People experience the presence of Jesus through us. I encourage you to think about who you know who needs to be invited to know Jesus' love. So there's what you can kind of start to think about this week is, what can we do to invite people to know Jesus' love? So let's start with an opening prayer. Jesus, these are our hands, and they're ready to serve those in need, just like you show us. These are our ears, they're ready to listen to your words. Help us to listen to you and to serve others. Amen. Our story is about two sisters today. One named Mary, one named Martha. And so as we read the story, think about what each one was doing while Jesus was there teaching. Mary and Martha. Jesus and his disciples were traveling. Along the way, Jesus decided they would visit with friends, Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha were sisters. They lived in a house together. They got along very well, most of the time at least. While Jesus visited with them, Mary sat on the floor and listened to Jesus teach. Martha, on the other hand, was very busy. She didn't have time to sit down. She cooked olives, fish, bread. She cleaned, swept the floor, and were shaking mats. Martha worked hard to make Jesus' visit very special. As she hurried around, she saw Mary sitting down with Jesus. She said, "Why doesn't she help me with the cleaning?" A few minutes later, Mary was still sitting with them as Martha worked. Martha got a little bit angry. She cleared her throat loudly, thinking, Mary could at least help me get this meal ready. All these people to feed, and she isn't helping one bit. Martha continued hurrying around, getting angrier by the minute. As she swept, she thought, Mary knows how to use this broom. As she cooked, she said to herself, I think my sister could at least stir this pot. As she gets the water and towels ready for cleaning Jesus' hands, she grumbles to herself, Grr, all this company and I am doing all the work. Finally, when she was still working and Mary was still sitting, Martha couldn't take it anymore. She burst into the room, interrupted what Jesus was saying, put her hands on her hip, and angrily said, Mary, please get up and help me. She looked at Jesus. Jesus, tell Mary to get up and do something. Jesus stopped what he was doing. Everything was quiet for a minute. Finally, Jesus looked at Martha. With love, he said, Martha, Martha, you are worried about every little thing. Thank you for your work to make my visit comfortable, but you need not worry about all those things. Mary has decided to sit and listen to me, and that was a good decision. Martha thought to herself, maybe I should sit down and listen to what Jesus said, at least for a minute. Maybe Mary has a good idea. So she sat and listened, and that was a good decision. In Jesus' day, again, women were expected to serve the guest and not sit with the teachers like Jesus. Martha did what women were expected to do, while Mary did not. When Jesus invited Mary and Martha to sit and learn from him, it was unexpected. Jesus always looked for the people who were being left out and invited them in. So that's a very good point to remember. Jesus always invited people in. The Bible verse today is Luke 10:39. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. So that's basically the whole story in one sentence. Mary listened to what God was saying, what Jesus was saying. So let's grab our leaflets and right here, 2 ways, 1 goal. Sometimes we are like Mary, who sit quietly and listen to Jesus. Sometimes we are like Martha, who is so busy serving others, making sure others' needs are met, we forget about our own. Both are ways to show Jesus we love him. Now here's a maze. So you start here, and go around, and there's little pictures that talk about the different things or show you the different things about how we can serve